Carl A. P. Ruck, in his Mushrooms, Myth, and Mithras, made a convincing argument that the Mithric tauroctony was an astrotheological scene depicting the Amanita muscaria as the sacred Eucharist. The color palette of the Mithra, dressed in red, the color of the mushroom pilus, surmounting the white bowl, the stipe, encapsulates the image of the sacred mushroom. To further illustrate this truth, his attendants, Cautes and Cautopates, both wear the red Phrygian cap and have crossed legs, which emulate the shape of a mushroom. The rest of the scene is an astrotheological drama of the procession of the equinox. This red and white palette of color has been used in many iconic religious and historical paintings, such as those of St. George slaying the dragon and the triumphant Napoleon crossing the Alps. This fresco of St. George and the dragon, attributed to Vitale de Bologna, circa 1330, provides a fascinating canvas for an iconographic analysis for fungal arcana. The structural and color parallels align well with the theory of veiled shamanic motifs in Christian art. Here is a breakdown of those observations through a mycological lens. The choice of a vibrant red cloak for the saint is a classic focal point. The duality of the cloak, red on the exterior and white ribbed on the interior, mirrors the anatomy of the Amanita muscaria. The red cape represents the pallias, or cap of the mushroom, whereas the white folded lining mimics the lamellae, or gills, found on the underside of the cap. The white horse serves as a massive vertical anchor for the cap, which is St. George. In ethnomycological symbolism, the horse often represents the stipe, or stem. The dappled gray-white spots on this specific horse further mirror the vulva remnants, the white spots often left on the cap. The dragon in medieval iconography often represents the primordial, or the chantic earthbound forces. Observe the tail wrapping around the horse's leg. Does it not look like a mushroom? Note the ribbed fan-like structure of the dragon's wings. In many similar frescoes, these are rendered with geometric precision that mimics fungal gill structures. The princess's green gown and upright posture often provide a vertical counterpoint, sometimes interpreted as the Virgin, or pure state of the sacrament before it is slain or harvested. The plain Carrot fresco, while often cited for its more obvious mushroom tree, this Vitale de Bologna piece is arguably more sophisticated because the symbolism is anthropomorphic. The mushroom is not just a plant in the background, but is embodied by the hero himself. This warrior as sacrament illustrates how the slaying of the dragon represents the breaking of the earth to reveal the hidden mana. Looking at this picture through the lens of ethnomycology and the veiled symbolism explored in other works like St. George slaying the dragon, there are several visual parallels in Jacques-Louis David's Napoleon crossing the Alps that align with research in the sacred mushroom iconography. While mainstream art historians focus on the political propaganda of this piece, an ethnomycological reading consistent with the theories of John Allegro or Robert Gordon Wasson reveals some striking fungal visual cues. In the fresco of St. George, you likely notice how the billowing cloak and the writer's upright posture can create a combined silhouette reminiscent of a mushroom. Napoleon's massive, vibrant red cloak is not just a symbol of power. Its organic, rounded, and expanding shape mimics the pallias, or cap, of an Amanita muscaria. The straight line from the horse's rearing legs up through Napoleon's torso serves as the stipe or stem. Napoleon's raised hand pointing toward the summit mirrors the upward pointing motifs often found in religious art that Allegro argued pointed towards the source of divine mana. In many traditions, the steed, be it a horse, a dragon, or a celestial bird, is often interpreted as the vehicle for the entheogenic experience. The white horse is a classic solar symbol. In the context of fungal arcana, the white horse can be viewed as the white stem or the purity of the fungal flesh that carries the red king, the cap, to a higher state, the mountain summit. This image of the goddess Manasa Devi is worshipped as the queen of snakes and sister of the serpent king, Vasuki, and daughter of the Lord Shiva. She is revered as a goddess of fertility and prosperity. This image instills the rich tapestry of veiled iconography. While it draws on the Hindu aesthetics, the structural composition leans heavily into the mushroom mythology. In Vedic and broader Eurasian mythology, the bird, specifically the swan or goose, Hamsa, is the vehicle of divine wisdom and transcendence. With Manasa in her red silk sari, symbolic of the Shakti, power and auspiciousness, sitting upon the white goose portrays the hidden fungal foundation of Vedic traditions. R. Gordon Wasson argued that Soma was Amanita muscaria. In many myths, the Soma is brought to earth by a bird, an eagle or a hawk, or the bird is the only creature capable of separating the milk or divine essence from the water. This image is rounded out with serpents or snakes. Just as the Amanita muscaria emerged from a universal veil, the snake sheds its skin to be reborn. And the Amrita, nectar of the gods, is guarded by serpents. And as Manasa floats in the water, she is surrounded by water lotuses, which itself is a cognate for the mushroom cap, the lotus of the heart. This Mughal-style miniature of Farrukh Sair is a textbook example of the veiled iconography. The structural and color choices here align perfectly with the Amanita muscaria blueprint, particularly with the context of Persian and Indian Soma and Haoma traditions. In this composition, the rider and the horse are not just a portrait, they form a functional diagram of the mushroom's anatomy. The golden circular nimbus or halo behind the rider's head is the most literal representation of the Palias. It emphasizes the enlightened mind and the solar nature of the Amanita, which was often called the son of the sun. The rider's red tunic is a deep, vibrant red adorned with small, repeating white and gold patterns. This mirrors the red skin and white warts, or the universal veil remnants, of a mature Amanita muscaria. The rider's upright, rigid posture creates a central stem that grounds the cap into the vehicle, the horse. Notice what the rider is holding. In Mughal art, the holding of a flower is a sign of refined taste and fragrance, but through an ethnomycological lens, it takes on a deeper meaning. When sacred substances become taboo, or the direct representation is restricted, artists use botanical substitutes. A small, multi-petaled flower held between the thumb and forefinger often mimics the visual of a small mushroom being offered or examined. The green saddlecloth and gold floral patterns represent the earthly or vegetal realm from which the sacred fungi emerge. The dots on the red tunic are not just decoration. In many Indo-Persian miniatures, these patterns represent the divine sparks or the spots of the mushroom, signifying that the ruler is literally clothed in the power of the entheogen. This is fascinating because while the visual style of the Renaissance fresco, the Allegory of March, the Triumph of Minerva, is completely different from David's neoclassical portrait of Napoleon, although the underlying symbolic structure is almost identical. Here, Minerva, dressed in red, the color of Mars and the Amanita, is sitting above a ram, Aries, or a goat. The goat is associated with the astrological sign of Aries, the ram, but in ancient mystery cults, like the cult of Dionysus, the goat was often a symbol of a divinely inspired state. The goat, eating or consuming specific plants, which then affects those who drink its milk, is a common folk motif in mushroom lore. Here the goat is depicted leaping or ascending, reinforcing the idea of a transcendental journey. The vibrant red of Minerva's gown and the white of the ram mirror the classic red cap and white stem of the Amanita muscaria. Some proponents of this theory suggest the ram's white woolly body represents the vulva, the white egg-like base from which the mushroom emerges, with the red figure, Minerva, sitting on top like the cap. Napoleon's raised hand is a command pointing toward his destiny, the mountain pass. Minerva is in a more passive, instructional pose, looking directly at the viewer with open hands, a conduit of divine wisdom. From an external source, the entheogen, rather than just personal authority. This 15th century illumination of the Tree of Jesse from the British Library is a perfect capstone for our current series. It demonstrates how the same structural metaphors we've identified in Mithricism and the imperial portraiture were fully integrated into the sacred genealogy of medieval Christianity. However, we have no powerful steed or leaping ram. This image illustrates that the sacred entheogen can be alluded to in various artistic styles. Here, Jesse is wearing a large, oversized red soft cap. It is structurally the most dominant feature of his head, acting as a literal cap of a mushroom, while his flowing white beard suggests the stem. Furthermore, we see two red fruit or berries emerging from the branches. Each ancestor is framed in a circular pod. Through an ethnomycological lens, these are not just branches, they are the spore-bearing caps, appearing at different stages of the growth of the holy lineage. The final bloom, at the very top of the tree, sits the Virgin Mary and the Christ child. John Allegro's research extended to several Old Testament figures, including Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and King David. He believed their stories and names contained hidden phallic and mycological fungus-related meanings, reflecting the growth stages and ritual use of the sacred mushroom. This consistency suggests that whether the vehicle is a horse, a swan, or a literal family tree, the Amanita blueprint remains the underlying geometric skeleton.